But this is better than facing danger empty-handed. Safety always comes first. The man gestured towards Esto and left abruptly, as if reprimanding him for his carelessness. Turning his back, he continued walking, leaving Esto alone, his face etched with confusion and bewilderment. He looked at the object in his hand, stammering a sincere thank you. They continued walking down the path, bathed in the hues of the setting sun. Esto glanced at the black cat, Suki, padding softly beside him. "Call me Suki. Do you remember Sarah?" The cat's voice echoed in his mind. "I can't remember all the humans I've met, and their forms." Esto nodded slightly. Perhaps it's better not to remember," Suki said to Esto, its blue eyes shimmering with sadness. "They made your life miserable, yet you still care about them." He clenched his fists tightly. Sarah didn't do anything wrong. The other party was just probing the situation. "So, what are you going to do?" He calmly replied, "I'm not going to do anything." Viscount Fabian roared in fury. "Bring him to me at once." The clerk behind the counter was flustered. "Sir, we can't do that." He snarled, "Can't do that? Do you dare defy my orders? Do you dare refuse my request?" The other person hurriedly waved their hands. "Please calm down, sir. You only stated their name. But that doesn't mean we have to obey absolutely." The young woman shrugged. "Because we only received a request." But before she could finish, Viscount Fabian interrupted. "It's been 10 days. Just then, Estio entered and noticed Viscount Fabian. The receptionist gave a strained smile. "I apologize, Viscount. Commander, Estio is one of the leaders of the guild now, even if it's a request." Viscount Fabian erupted in fury, slamming his fist on the table and roaring, "Silence! How dare you talk back to me? Do you know who I am? Do you want this entire establishment to go bankrupt?" The young woman hurriedly tried to explain herself. "I sincerely apologize, sir. But this building is under the direct management of His Majesty, the Emperor. We can only accept punitive orders from the Emperor himself, or someone specifically authorized by him." Before she could finish, the Viscount cut her off. "Shut your mouth. I said bring him to me at once." The loud argument between the two had attracted the attention of Estio and Higa. Both furrowed their brows in confusion. "Isn't that Viscount Fabian everyone talks about?" Estio hesitantly replied, "Yes, that's him." Higa carefully observed Viscount Fabian, seeing his disheveled appearance and his rude, common behavior. He thought to himself, "It seems the madman here is him, not his daughter. Where's the dignity of a nobleman? Why does he look so disheveled? Just pretend we don't see him. Let's ignore him." Stio gave a slight nod in agreement. "I think so too." They walked away as his shouts echoed after them. Viscount Fabian's gaze swept over the figure beside him. He yelled, "Estio." The dark circles under his eyes were prominent, along with a scraggly beard that looked like it hadn't been groomed in days. The Viscount ran over, looking at him like a long-lost treasure. Viscount Fabian gripped Estio's shoulders tightly. "It's been so long since I heard you changed jobs. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you?" His hands trembled. "Will you stay here from now on?" Estio coldly brushed his hands away, causing him to drop them in confusion. "Oh, of course, because..." Viscount Fabian gave a forced smile. "I've been a little forgetful lately. It's me, Leo Z." "Fabian, listen to me." His eyes welled up with tears. "My daughter, Sarah, its body is in critical condition. You can help it, can't you?" But Stio remained cold and indifferent. "Why should I?" Scout Fabian asked anxiously, his face etched with confusion. "What do you mean? This is something only you can do. Only you have the ability to erase its memories, or at least help it get some peaceful sleep." Higa stood at a distance, witnessing everything, silently speechless. Stio turned his back and walked away. "I'm working on another request. Please come back later." His whole world seemed to crumble in an instant. "Another request? What request?" The other man threw his hands up in the air, his voice filled with rage. "It doesn't matter. Cancel it." Higa interrupted. "I don't want to." He looked at Higa. "Who are you?" Higa pointed at himself. "Me? The one who made the request." He pursed his lips and wagged his index finger. "I have no intention of canceling my request." "Then try giving it up." He gritted his teeth, fury burning in his eyes. "This brat dares to be insolent before Viscount Fabian?" The young man spoke. "I apologize for my abruptness. I haven't introduced myself." He placed a hand on his hip, offered a gentle smile, and announced, "I am Yubion." Higa's expression shifted slightly. Viscount Fabian froze completely. The air between the two men turned icy. Those around them fell silent, holding their breath as they watched. Viscount Fabian's eyes widened, and he thought to himself, a personage of the Duke's stature, What is he doing here? Stio quietly turned away. Hyga let out a hearty laugh and extended his hand. Forgive me for acting like such a damn duke. The smile remained plastered on his face. Fabian stammered, someone as powerful as the duke. He stepped towards Estio and asked, do you still hold a grudge against me for what happened in the past? How can he? Recalling the image of his son pointing, berating, and humiliating Najura, and even resorting to physical violence against the boy, he snapped out of his chaotic thoughts, placed a hand on his chest, and pleaded, by the gods, please forgive this trifling matter. Don't hold a grudge. Think it over carefully. Shouldn't I be the one who's indignant, who's angry, not you? After having lost so much, he broke out in a sweat, stammering, I've forgotten all about it. This is a sensitive time. Not the moment to dwell on such things. He glanced at the man, thinking, right, he's always been like this, never willing to admit his mistakes and apologize. Seeing him turn, the man flinched in fear, hurriedly saying, I swear I'll never ask you anything again. Just please, this once, help me just this once. He gripped his shoulders, shaking him fiercely, pleading desperately, why? Why should I? He was stunned by the question. He said coldly, let go. The moment he released the boy, he turned to walk away. A cry of pain escaped his throat. He trembled, despair washing over him. This can't be happening. A moment later, a scream pierced the air. Sarah wants to see you. Please. He dropped his knees, begging desperately. Please save my daughter. Those who witnessed the scene gasped in shock. The boy turned away, thinking to himself. In the end, he never even apologized. As dusk settled, Sarah stood by the window, gazing at the twilight sky. The small dog at her feet clung to her skirt, barking softly. Another rustle broke the silence. A black cat suddenly appeared before Sarah. It stood there, looking at her and meowing softly. Sarah gasped in surprise. A black cat. She looked at the cat and whispered, Stio, you really look like him. At first, I thought he was so silly. He was skinny and quiet. He didn't seem happy about being able to read people's minds either. If it were me, I'd love it. I could talk to Hiru all day. And even though he has the adorable Nizu by his side, his face still holds a strangely vacant expression. But when I look at Hiru, his eyes are truly beautiful. My heart feels at peace whenever I gaze into those deep blue eyes. But when I think about him using those beautiful eyes to take the life of someone out there, I suddenly feel lost, my mind blank, unable to think. I'm horrified by the brutal acts my father and brother committed. But at the same time, I feel a slight sense of relief. Even though everyone there lost their lives, SDO didn't harm my father or brother. I was scared of myself for thinking that way. Suddenly, a voice spoke up. It's not your fault. Don't beat yourself up over nothing. The black cat jumped down and ran to the side of the man who had just spoken. The young girl turned around, looking at Esther with surprise. He smiled at her and said, It's been a while, Miss Serafina. He extended his hand towards Sarah, a decisive gesture. She was completely taken aback, speechless for a long moment. In a flash, her face lit up with a radiant smile. You could just call me Sarah. But why are you here? Did you hear from my father? He quickly replied, This has nothing to do with the Viscount. Didn't you say the same thing last time, miss? He bashfully, slowly replied, We're friends. Sarah smiled and continued. That's right, secret friends. You still remember, right? He added, Your friend, Mississippi. I have no intention of harming you or your family. Therefore, I will erase your memories, Mississippi. The cheerful young girl suddenly froze, her eyes wide with panic. Erase my memories? What are you talking about? Patting her head, he reassured her, Don't be afraid, Sherilyn. This is necessary for you. She brushed his hand away, saying, What are you talking about? Stio fell silent, then hesitantly spoke. Otherwise, do you intend to die? The little girl looked up at him with her clear eyes and whispered. Seeing her hesitation and shyness, he continued gently, If you forget all your memories of me, you can smile happily seeing your family reunited. The little girl stood frozen, her small body trembling uncontrollably. She lowered her head, lost in deep thought. After a moment of silence, Siola clenched her fists and asked, What you said, what does it mean? I need that. What does that mean? The little girl cried out in confusion, not understanding what was right. Is it okay to just ignore things I don't like? Is that the right thing to do? Look away, ignore, and forget everything. What does that even mean? Becoming more agitated, the little girl asked loudly, Is that how all adults are? Stio bent down and softly explained, That's not what I meant. The little girl clutched his shirt and pressed him. Then what do you mean, you idiot? Siola's eyes were brimming with tears. I'm scared. I'm scared I'll forget all these feelings. Bullying others without knowing, hurting them. I'm afraid I'll smile brightly without realizing the things I'm doing are wrong. The little girl suddenly remembered her father, a man like her father, saw Hiru running towards them. The young girl gently called and picked up the small cat. She softly added, "If I forget you, then I'll also lose all my memories of Hiru." Sparkling tears, filled with sorrow, streamed down her face. I would never want that to happen. Witnessing this scene, the young man couldn't help but feel concerned. He asked Seraphina, "So what are you going to do?" The young girl pondered for a long moment, then suddenly spoke, wanting to continue. She looked up at him, her face beaming radiantly. "Being your friend, that's enough. I'll handle the rest myself." Slightly surprised, he asked again, "Is that really okay?" The young girl affirmed with certainty, yes. Under the sparkling starry sky, the young girl seemed to radiate an aura. She gave a bright smile. "No matter what, I'm still Seraphina Z. Fabian. So, don't ever think about erasing my memories," she said, her eyes sharp as knives. Having finished her sentence, she added a powerful glare. Estio replied, "I understand." The conversation ended there. Estio turned to leave. "Well then, goodbye." In a flash, the boy nimbly climbed onto the windowsill, about to leave. The girl was about to ask something more when the boy suddenly turned around. The girl hesitantly asked, "So, will you be able to do it?" The boy smiled, a smile as gentle as the morning sun. "Yeah, if it's you, you'll definitely succeed." With that, the boy jumped down, startling the girl. The girl hurriedly called out his name, worried and wanted to check on him. But then, she was astonished as she witnessed shimmering feathers like dragon scales gently falling down. The beautiful sight made the girl smile with delight, her eyes intently following them. The girl watched his back as he disappeared, a myriad of thoughts welling up in her heart. Now, he has many friends. The night sky, with its moon and twinkling stars, became quiet again. 3 people were leisurely walking down the road. Suddenly, Estio stopped. He turned around and asked Saw, "Do you two know how I ended up at the Fabian mansion?" "Parker." "Me?" Parker scratched his head and replied, "Mabian just dragged me along. Said he was going to find you." Mabian shrugged nonchalantly, replying, "What do you mean? I don't quite understand." He then recounted the whole story. Estio said, "What I want to do is up to me." Finishing his sentence, he turned and walked away, ascending the stairs step by step. In the large, silent mansion, Estio's footsteps were even clearer, echoing. Estio continued up the stairs, Mabian silently following behind. Suddenly, he stopped and turned to call Mabian. A look of surprise and confusion was evident on his face. Estio gently told him to go rest first. With that, he walked past Mabian. This sudden action surprised him. Estio quickly descended the stairs, leaving Mabian frozen in place, a bewildered expression still on his face. He exclaimed, "Good heavens!" Having just descended the stairs, Mabian continued to lament. He still acts like a child. How can he be like this? Mubin approached, placing a hand on Mobian's shoulder, comforting him. But who knew that young lady from that family was so infatuated? Estio immediately denied it. "You didn't think we'd stay quiet, did you?" Suddenly, a clear voice called Estio from a window high above. It was Haru. She waved, smiling brightly. "Dinner's ready." Mubion looked up, replying, "Oh, my stomach's starting to rumble." Parker, standing beside him, added, "Since we're leaving tomorrow, let's keep it light." Estio pondered thoughtfully. "Tomorrow? That's right. Tomorrow we'll arrive at Sur Village." Everyone started chattering excitedly. "I heard tonight's special is beans, and there's meatballs, fried eggs, and rice too." Someone else chimed in, "Isn't that a feast fit for royalty?" In the quiet forest, Haru's sigh echoed. "I'm so tired. The soil here is so dry." Najura keeps moaning, "Oh, my roots hurt." Haru turned and asked, "Are you tired? What's wrong?" She reached out towards a small cactus, saying with an adorable expression, "Let me carry you." Immediately, the small cactus jumped onto Haru's hand. The group continued their journey. Parker wiped the sweat from his brow with a handkerchief. He panted, complaining, "This road is so rough. Even a carriage ride would be incredibly bumpy." Mobian, walking behind, spoke up, "I agree. We've walked such a long way. But it seems like Star Village is still far away." Estio replied, "We still have quite a distance to go." Mobian continued, It's understandable. This village is quite isolated deep in the forest like this. Estio looked up at the faint light in the sky. He suddenly realized he had also lived in such a remote place. Parker said, in such a desolate place, I guess we don't have to worry about being robbed, right? Mobian replied, how can anyone be robbed when there's not a soul around? He flapped his wings to create a cool breeze and asked Estio, how long has it been since you returned to your hometown, Estio? Estio replied, I just left the village at the beginning of this year. Mobian asked further, ah, so you left after completing the coming-of-age ceremony? He seemed lost in thought. Memories of the past flooding back, like a slow-motion film. The cruel taunts, get out, you bastard. You're a jinx, a cursed child, echoed in his ears. He stood frozen, as if drowning in the dark abyss of memory. Stio jolted back to reality at the sound of Parker's voice. He felt the weight of a tremendous responsibility on his shoulders. So you started working as soon as you became an adult? Parker asked. He turned, questioning, what responsibility? Parker smiled and replied, well, leaving your hometown, the place you were born and raised, is an incredibly difficult decision, whether it's to pursue a dream or anything else. Parker's words sent him into deep thought once more. After a moment, he countered, that's not it. It's not because of any responsibility. With that, he turned and walked away. Clenching his fist, he thought to himself, I left only because I wanted to live to survive. Mobian and Parker exchanged confused glances. Mobian asked, but you said your family still lives in the village of Serbia, right? He replied indifferently, I guess. The Mobian officer inquired a little about his family background. Both his mother and father were safe and sound, and he was the youngest in the family, with an older brother and sister. They must be overjoyed to see him return home, right? Yet, he remained silent. Officer Kuth thought to himself, this boy is strange. Stio, why aren't you happy? Even though he had become the guild commander, he rarely mentioned his family. Even the expression on his face when he did was unpleasant. But why? What happened? Could it be they didn't love such a talented son? Suddenly, he jolted, gasped, and yelled, fire! There's a fire! Immediately, Stio rushed towards the blaze. Parker flew up. I'll go check it out. Mobian asked worriedly, what's with that smoke? Is it a forest fire? He looked up and replied, no, that's where the village is. Mubin turned back with a shocked expression. What are you saying? The village is on fire? But he only responded with, who knows? With a worried look on his face. Estio remained stoic, his gaze fixed on the thick plume of smoke. Mubin wondered aloud, how can he be so calm? Uhuru panicked. What's happening? Are the villagers hurt? Such a fierce fire, erupting in such an isolated village. Contacting the outside world for help will be difficult. Mubin looked up, lost in thought. Since none of us possess water, elemental abilities, the current situation is extremely unfavorable. Uhuru's eyes lit up with curiosity. He asked, what do you mean by water elemental abilities? Mubin carefully explained it to Uhuru. Water mages can manipulate the water in the surrounding area. More advanced elemental mages can even create rain. Just then, Parker rushed back. He reported, I just checked the situation. Uhuru asked worriedly, well, how bad is the fire? Parker stammered, that's not it. The mountain isn't on fire. Everyone was stunned. Suddenly, Estio remembered something and spoke up. Wait. Estio turned to Parker. What do you mean? Explain yourself. Kyo slowly replied. The villagers built an altar and lit a fire on it. What happened? The cactus listened, feeling uneasy. So tiresome. Why is your storytelling so exhausting? Parker seemed hesitant, stammering, if I'm not mistaken, on that burning altar. Estio urgently asked, what is it? Parker continued, on that burning altar, there seems to be someone tied up. Estio stood before the raging fire. Hearing the words, someone tied up on a burning altar, he was utterly shocked. Estio froze for a moment, seemingly unable to process what he'd heard, then looked towards Parker. He clenched his fists. You mean, the villagers tied someone up and are burning them alive? Kyo responded in a panic. It seems that's the case. The person who's tied up seems to still be alive. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding air grew heavy. Stio gritted his teeth, thinking, no way, he must be mistaken. Without another word, he spun around and sprinted toward the forest. Parker frantically called after Stio, but he only picked up speed, flying forward. His footsteps pounded the ground as he raced through the dense trees. Even the bravest villagers wouldn't dare come near this desolate place, he thought. No matter how cruel they are, they wouldn't dare commit such a heinous act, even with the darkest hearts. They couldn't possibly commit such a horrific crime. But what if they truly are that ruthless? As he ran, Estio grew more and more anxious and uneasy. It should have been me tied up there, he blamed himself. After running for what felt like an eternity, he finally saw his familiar village. Estio stopped beneath a large tree, his gaze fixed on the raging fire. On the sacrificial altar, there was indeed a girl tied up. Seeing Bella struggling amidst the flames, Estio was horrified. She was screaming desperately, "Please help me, save me." Realizing the captive was Bella, he cried out in despair. "Bella!" Bella cried out in despair, desperately pleading, "It's not like that. I didn't do it. Please believe me," she sobbed, calling out to Dino and Louis. But they coldly turned away, pretending not to hear. "Bella!" She continued to cry for help, then called out, "Uncle Jack." Suddenly, the woman beside Uncle Jack screamed, "How dare you call my husband? You witch!" she roared furiously. Bella's tears fell like rain as she desperately cried out for help in vain. "Please save me, please," she whispered. Childhood memories flooded back when Bella was just a little girl, abandoned by her own parents. "Are you just going to stand there and watch them play with you?" Her parents' voices echoed her memory. "Mom and Dad are busy. Don't bother us. Just go out and play," they said irritably. Little Bella teared up, feeling hurt and alone. "But I want to be with Mom and Dad," she sobbed. Suddenly, a warm voice spoke up. "You're Bella, aren't you?" "Yes. Want to play together?" the voice continued. Little Bella turned around in surprise, asking, "Together?" She looked towards her new friends, her eyes lighting up with hope. "Let's play together." The little girl found a glimmer of light in the depths of darkness. She hurried towards them, seeking warmth and companionship. Sweet memories with her new friends lingered in the little girl's mind. "You're so cute. Do you want to be my little sister?" The little girl beamed, her smile as radiant as the morning sun. "Is this what it feels like to be loved? I'm so happy." For the first time in her life, she felt the warmth of affection, the genuine care from another person. Everyone praised Bella, saying how adorable and pretty she was. "You're growing more beautiful every day." Every little girl wants to be loved. To hear sweet nothings like "I love you, Bella," the little girl yearned for even more love. But the fleeting happiness was replaced by harsh scolding from the wives. "What were you doing with my husband? How dare you?" Bella innocently thought that by doing so, she would continue to be loved and pampered. But in the end, she only received harsh and bitter words. "That girl is a demon. She used dark magic to seduce my husband." The little girl looked bewildered, her clear eyes filled with confusion. "But you said you loved me." The little girl cried out in despair. "You said you loved me." But now, she was surrounded only by curses and hateful glares. "Burn the witch. Burn her alive." The flames roared, their searing heat burning her skin. "It's so hot, so hot." "Bella," the young woman cried out in despair. "I don't want to die. I don't want to die like this. Someone help me." But it seemed no one heard her desperate pleas. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared on the wooden post, letting out a meow. It was Suki. Bella looked up in bewilderment, seeing a jet-black cat perched atop the post. "A cat," the crowd below gasped. "A black cat. It's a sign of the devil. It must be. It's the witch's accomplice." The black cat looked at Bella, meowing several times as if trying to say something. Bella looked back at the cat, their eyes meeting. The more she looked into those eyes, the more Bella felt they resembled a human's. Someone she knew. "It's his fault. It's all his fault. If he hadn't left, I wouldn't be in this situation." Just then, the ropes binding Bella inexplicably snapped. The crowd below panicked. "What's happening?" "Just now. What are you doing?" Estio jumped down, landing on the wooden platform. He strode towards the young girl. Bella was still stunned by Estio's timely arrival. Without hesitation, he scooped her up into his arms, carrying her away from the raging flames. The older man stood blocking Estio's path, his eyes fixed on the badge Estio wore. He immediately recognized it as the symbol of the renowned Ignis Guild. Estio gently set Bella down on the ground. Standing protectively in front of her, he asked, "What's going on here?" The old man gritted his teeth, his face contorted with rage. "That girl, she's a criminal. She committed an unforgivable sin. She angered the gods, and now she must pay for her actions." Estio remained calm, asking Bella, "What did you do wrong?" The woman beside the old man snarled, her teeth grinding. "That wicked little witch. She seduced a man and then murdered him." Rosit, Estio's older sister, stepped forward with a sardonic expression. "Look at you, still pathetic after all these years. You haven't changed a bit. So?" she snarled, continuing her accusation. "The girl you just saved, she's a murderer." Bella cried out in alarm. No, please, listen to her explanation. The woman shrieked. She's a witch, an evil sorceress. She uses dark magic to seduce the men of the village, kills them, and eats their livers. They say she only feasts on the organs of the freshly dead. We must kill her. Kill the vile witch. Sayo remained calm, asking, "Where is your proof? Where is the fair judgment?" Rosette laughed loudly, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What for?" Another person spoke up, echoing the crowd. "Protecting such a criminal. You truly are a cursed child." Teo, Estio's brother, added his own mockery. "If you already left, you should have stayed gone. Don't leave a single trace behind." He sneered, taunting. "Sneaking back to the village like rats? What for?" Bella asserted firmly. "I have never killed anyone." His words ignited Tirio's fury. Stio quickly explained, "I just read Bella's memories. There's nothing like that in her memories." The girl frantically pleaded, "It's true, I'm innocent," but it seemed no one believed her. "He's using that demonic power," someone yelled. "He's a liar. How can we believe him?" A torrent of vicious curses followed. "Get out of here, monster!" Cruelly, they grabbed a dead fish and threw it at his head. The aggressive act horrified the old man. He spun around and roared, "You fool! What have you done?" Suddenly, the sky opened up and rain poured down, growing heavier by the second. Stio stood silently, facing the hostile crowd. Blood from the wound on his forehead mixed with the rain, streaming down his face. "Stio!" Bella rushed to him, her voice filled with worry. "Your head is bleeding." He stared blankly for a moment, then burst out laughing. "This place, nothing's changed." Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he commanded them to stop immediately. Everyone instinctively dropped to their knees. They were completely immobilized, unable to move, even a muscle. Did you just curse us?" Tariot spoke, his voice filled with rage. "You ungrateful wretch. We raised you, and this is how you repay us." He suddenly noticed feathers falling softly around them. Ma Bien, witnessing this, couldn't hold back any longer and shouted, "Enough! You dared disrespect the commander of the XNIS Society. How dare you all behave this way?" Rosette's face paled, stammering, "The renowned XNIS Society. Since the weather is unsuitable to receive you outside, I will invite the members of the XNIS Society to my home. Everyone else, disperse." The old man immediately used magic to teleport everyone away. "Everyone, you may follow me." At this, everyone obeyed and left one by one. Bella, with a sad expression, hesitated. She approached him and tugged on his sleeve. Esther, she gently pulled on his sleeve and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." He coldly said, "I didn't intend to save you. Don't get any ideas." Bella insisted, "No matter what you say, I know who you really are." He turned away, his voice icy. "You still owe me. Even now. That debt is as big as your desires. I should have been the one to fall into that hellhole." Bella cried out, "That's not true." He shook her off. "I'm not noble enough to accept someone who once despised me. After all this is over, I hope we never have to see each other again. Because you and this whole place just make me tired." Bella felt wronged, choked with emotion, wanting to explain to him. "Before, I didn't understand anything about you. I only believed the lies that those assassins said about you. But now I know it was all fabricated." Bella was filled with regret. "I understand now. We're the same. Both outcasts." Mabian spoke up. "What are you doing? Are you going to keep listening to this nonsense?" Hearing this, Estio coldly replied, "I won't go." The girl still tried to hold on to Estio, her eyes filled with hope. She pleaded, "We were friends when we were little, weren't we, Estio?" She started to say but before she could finish, Estio cut her off with a firm, "We were friends." His voice was so cold that it made the girl wonder in pain. "Have you never considered me a true friend?" With that, Estio turned and walked away, Mabian silently following behind. Bio Rang collapsed, overwhelmed with regret. She screamed and cried in the pouring rain, repeatedly asking herself, why? Inside a warm house, everyone shouted in unison, "The selfish society." A white-haired old man inside the house spoke with delight. "Such a wonderful person was born in our village. Ha ha ha." Boisterous laughter rang out as the old man quickly added, "That's right. It's been a long time since I've seen him. Our family should hold a grand, welcoming celebration." His words grew increasingly serious, causing a sudden silence to fall over the room. The white-haired old man coughed slightly, trying to ease the tension. Then he slowly continued, Oho, Stio's reputation truly precedes him. Quite extraordinary. The old man extended his hand forward about a certain height and reminisced with a sigh. It seems like only yesterday he was just this tall. The heavily bearded man laughed heartily in response. Indeed, haha, time sure flies. Suddenly, a voice rang out, breaking the lively atmosphere. That doesn't seem to be the case. Both of them gasped in surprise. A young man spoke up. Our commander didn't return out of some sentimental longing for you, Ma Bian added, but to fulfill my request. The old man's face fell, his expression turning sour. I know you're the one who made the request, but don't interfere in adult matters. Mu Bian slowly reached out and touched his teacup, then looked up, his tone somewhat rude. Mu Bian leisurely took a sip of his tea and said calmly, You elders, you all say the same thing, don't you? He looked up and made his demand. Give me a satisfactory answer. The other two jumped, their bodies trembling slightly. The old man stared at Mu Bian and asked, Are you a noble? He rested his chin on his hand and replied, Me? He casually reached into his pocket and pulled out a heavy bag of gold. The young man tossed the bag of gold onto the table. I told you, I'm the one who made the request. Everyone around them widened their eyes, their jaws dropping in astonishment at the massive amount of money Ma Bian was throwing around. The young man flashed a devilish grin and casually said, This money is all yours. Ma Bian ran his hands over the stack of cash, then slammed it down on the table decisively and continued, If you can answer my question, I will give you all of this. The old man froze at the sudden turn of events. The power of money was truly overwhelming. He immediately changed his demeanor, welcoming Ma Bian warmly. Ma Bian exclaimed, Oh my, you should have just told us you were a nobleman. A woman chimed in, Sir. I knew it all along. You exude such an elegant fragrance, like the sweet scent of honey. Ma Bian ran a hand through his hair dramatically. It's not honey, it's cologne. The woman's face lit up with excitement. What cologne is it? She asked eagerly. The young man narcissistically caressed his own face, then added, We use precious aromatic oils, meticulously distilled from the rare curry flower, a gift from the emperor himself, to massage our feet each morning. As it's a gift from the highest authority, it would be disrespectful not to use it. A high-pitched voice rang out, laced with smugness. Truly a life of magnificent luxury. Mubin immediately showed his displeasure, glancing at the young man, and thinking to himself, I had hoped to find something more refined in the place where Sushio grew up, but this place is truly repulsive. The old man quickly stood up, speaking to him ingratiatingly. But esteemed sir, what useful information could simple country folk like us possibly provide you? Mubin raised a hand, toying with a small bean in his palm, and said coldly, Your ignorance and short-sightedness truly astounds me, beyond even my wildest imaginings. If I didn't know you were relatives of that commander, I wouldn't have guessed. Astonishing. As soon as he finished speaking, Mubin crushed the bean in his hand. The young man spoke up. Enough of this nonsense, get to the point. He tossed the bean onto the table and continued. At least these fools. Surely you too are qualified to answer these questions, based on your own personal experiences, right? The young man lifted his head and asked, Are you truly the parents of Commander Song Hyen of Sao? All eyes turned towards the couple, beads of sweat forming on their foreheads from the tension. After a moment of hesitation, the man spoke. Yes, Song Hyen is our son. The woman turned to Song Hyen with a tender look, but the young man seemed lost in his own thoughts, his vacant gaze fixed on some undefined point, looking at no one. The woman approached him, lovingly stroking Song Hyen's hair, trying to show her deep maternal affection. He is our most precious treasure, she said. Ma Bian bluntly replied, I don't want to hear platitudes. A flicker of discomfort crossed the woman's face. He repeated his question. What I want to know is Song Hyen truly your biological son? Lying will have immediate consequences. Answer truthfully. The woman continued to stroke Estio's hair, her voice soft and gentle. Sir, this child is my son. But Estio's face remained expressionless. She added, He bears a striking resemblance to his father, mother, and sister. So how can there be any doubt? The other two simultaneously glanced at Ma Bian. He turned to them and inquired, So, were you present when the incident with stock occurred? Tyrios stammered, I don't recall. He looked at his son with a forgiving gaze, defending him. The children were too young then. Tyrios was only 3 years old, and Rosette was only a year older than him at the time. Mabian crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. But I remember everything I heard and saw, even when I was only a year old. Parker quickly waved his hands, explaining to him, "That's because you're special, Sir Mabian." He looked towards SDO, cautiously asking, "So what they're saying, is it true?" SDO stammered, his eyes wide with confusion. "Why are you asking me this?" Mian looked directly at SDO, his voice hardening. "Because you're the only one who can distinguish truth from lies." SDO's expression became even more bewildered. "You mean, I have to check if they're lying? You mean, I'm supposed to tell if they're lying?" SDO turned, his gaze falling on the man. A man with hair as white as snow, his long beard divided into 3 distinct sections. SDO then shifted his gaze to the woman. Her face was etched with worry, her eyes fixed on SDO with concern. A wave of unease washed over SDO. He thought, "I can't." Suddenly, memories from his childhood flooded his mind. A woman held a ladle filled with soup, raised high as if about to strike a small boy. Young SDO could only cower, his arms wrapped around his head in a futile attempt to shield himself. The man's voice boomed, filled with sternness. "Listen here. I have to teach you a lesson. Reading someone's memories without permission is wrong, incredibly wicked." He pointed a finger directly at SDO's face, his voice rising to a shout. "You're a monster, a perpetrator of depraved acts." SDO recoiled in terror, stammering teaching. But before he could finish, a rough hand clamped over his mouth. He struggled in vain. The couple erupted in fury, berating and lecturing SDO as if he were some monstrous beast. The woman snarled, her voice menacing. "Do you understand?" SDO's face flushed crimson with fear, tears welling in his eyes as he looked at them. The woman continued her tirade, her voice sharp as a knife. "You are never to read our minds again. If you ever do..." The woman shoved SDO hard against the wall, roaring, "You will never be considered our family again." As an innocent child, unaware of the complexities of life, to endure such harsh words, SDO felt a surge of anguish, tears brimming in his eyes. The words, "You will never be considered our family again," hung like a curse, echoing in SDO's young mind. A look of sadness washed over his face as he thought to himself, What did I read back then? I can't remember." SDO squeezed his eyes shut, shaking his head, trying to grasp at the fading memories. "I have to remember. I have to." Noticing SDO's pale complexion, Parker asked with concern. Commander SDO looked unwell, worrying Parker. "Are you all right?" Parker asked, carefully observing SDO. His gaze was fixed on SDO, assessing the situation. SDO quickly reassured Parker, stammering slightly, about that." A sudden call interrupted SDO. At his feet, Najura and Ahuru were approaching SDO, their faces etched with worry. SDO smiled gently, replying, "I'm fine, just lost in thought." For a moment, SDO turned back, reassuring everyone, "Don't worry." Then SDO turned to look at the 2 people who were supposed to be his parents. He sensed their unease and worry. A thought crossed SDO's mind. They're definitely hiding something. SDO stood up abruptly and walked towards them. He slowly stepped behind them. They remained perfectly still like statues. Stio gently placed a hand on their trembling shoulders, his voice soft and comforting. "As per the client's request, would you allow me to review your memories to verify the incident?" Both of them flinched simultaneously. The woman shrieked in terror, "No," while the man remained silent. She continued to yell, "We told you, Stio. It's because of things like this that you became a monster. Do you know how much we've struggled to..." Mabian was visibly annoyed by the woman's outburst. He slammed his hand down on the table. The table split in 2. The daughter screamed in sheer terror. Her brother stared at Stio in horror. Stio's expression darkened. He repeated, "That monster nonsense." His voice filled with rage. "You better shut your mouth." SDO looked surprised when he heard that monsters, felt sad when called that. Nazura immediately crossed her arms and pouted, adding, "That's right, I don't like being called that either." Parker scratched his head, chuckled nervously, and confessed, "Actually, I'm not human like you guys. I'm an avian." Parker laughed heartily. Hiro, who had been face down on the table, suddenly sat up. Awizatl spoke up. "What's going on? Count me in." Everyone present was astonished, their eyes wide as they stared at the talking cactus. The young girl screamed, "Monster!" and fainted from the shock. Everyone panicked and frantically called for Rosette. Ahur asked in confusion, "Wait, what's happening? Is this thing scary?" Ahudo roared in fury. "I know you're faking unconsciousness. Wake up." He continued to rant. "Good heavens. There's a hairy monkey that can talk, a guy with noble black dragon blood, and even a rooster that can speak human tongue. But I'm the only one who's scary? Why?" Kay flinched, feeling a prickle of annoyance at being called a rooster. Just then, Ahuru's face fell, and he angrily jumped onto Estio's hand. Estio looked down to see what was happening and found Ahuru crying. He sobbed to Estio, whimpering, "Everyone looks down on me. Boo-hoo." Estio comforted him. "They don't look down on you. They're just a little afraid. Being able to scare so many people means you're very capable, Ahuru." As he spoke, he affectionately patted Ahuru's head. "If you say so, then I really am amazing, aren't I?" Estio remained silent, his gaze fixed on his relatives. "If you want to receive the reward you expect," Estio began, "you'd better cooperate." The older brother, the company's CEO, roared in indignation. "Who do you think you're threatening? Do you think you're intimidating some kind of artificial intelligence?" He aggressively advanced toward the CEO, grabbing him by the collar and yelling, "You bastard! You've been a burden, a curse from the start. We've had to live in shame and humiliation, all because of you. Why should we suffer the contempt, the curses of others? Because of you, it's all your fault." His rage intensified with each passing moment. "I locked you in the attic, so I wouldn't have to see your face." Estio, the young boy, remained silent, offering no response. The man continued, his face filled with arrogance. "Do you know that the attic isn't a place for the living?" He added, his voice menacing. "Do you know that in the dead of winter, that place becomes an icy tomb where no living creature can possibly survive?" The older man roared, bellowing at the other man. "Teo, stop it." He flinched, startled by the older man's outburst. The other man stubbornly continued, "We starved you for a month, and yet you're still grinning like nothing happened." The older man angrily shouted, "I told you to be quiet." The other man persisted, yelling towards Estio, "Even if we sent you to the depths of hell, and you still survive, were you if not a monster?" The older man was horrified by his son's cruel words. Even the woman gasped and covered her mouth in shock. Estio, with an icy expression, stared straight ahead and said calmly, "I see." The other man continued to rant, "I hate your freakish appearance, different from everyone else. It's disgusting. You act all high and mighty like you're part of my family, because those eyes are the exact same color as his mother's." Mabian was lost in thought, trying to figure out how to replicate that stunning eye color. Estio suddenly grabbed his hand and declared, "I've loathed you for a long time." Estio's face was a mask of disgust and rage. "I hate you too, Tyrio." He gritted his teeth, utterly infuriated by Estio's harsh and unforgiving words. In a fit of rage, he threw a powerful punch straight at Estio with a growl. "You bastard!" The punch flew swiftly, but the boy's father suddenly appeared and intercepted the attack. Estio was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. He gasped and called out to his father. The man remained calm, replying, "He's your younger brother, Tyrios. I'm not forcing you two to be close." The man said, his gaze firmly fixed on his son. "But you can't deny his existence." Tyrios retorted, "Why?" Tyrio, filled with rage, yelled at him, "You hate it too, yet you always act so afraid." The man honestly replied, "Yes, I am afraid." His entire body trembled violently. "But I've never hated it." Estio thought to herself, "If you don't hate it, then why are you acting like this?" Estio quickly placed her hand on his back and wondered, "Why are you behaving this way?" Estio's hand suddenly emitted a brilliant light. Something incredibly astonishing happened, leaving Estio stunned. Estio gasped, thinking this is... An intense light radiated outwards, engulfing the entire room. Estio thought to herself, "This light..." Then suddenly, the light in the room vanished. Nothing remained. Outside the forest, the sky abruptly darkened as black clouds rolled in. A man, breathing heavily, with an axe in his hand and a heavy barrel strapped to his back, trudged up the mountainside. A black crow took flight and soared upwards. The man startled, stumbling backward as the crow suddenly took flight. He slowly got to his feet, muttering, "Damn it." Looking around, he reproached himself, "I've gone the wrong way." Suddenly, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the distance, making the man squint. He blinked, trying to focus on the light source. A beam of light pierced through the thick foliage, appearing right before his eyes. The man immediately ran towards the light. As he ran, he called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" He continued running desperately, pleading, "Help me, please wait for me. At least stay with me until daybreak." The light grew brighter and more widespread, shining directly into the man's eyes. He had to shield his eyes with his hands because of the intense brightness. As the light softened, the man slowly opened his eyes and gasped in astonishment. "Oh my God!" At the bottom of a deep chasm, a shimmering gold stone radiated a brilliant light. Eyes fixated on the gleaming gold, the man continued to pray for God's help. Then he slowly slid down into the deep pit, moving towards the mesmerizing glow of the stone. As soon as he reached the bottom, the man couldn't help but gasp. "Oh my God!" A thought flashed through his mind with certainty. "This must be gold." A wide grin spread across his lips. "Gold! It's gold!" A massive chunk of gold, unbelievably huge. Overwhelmed with joy, the man rejoiced and thought to himself, "I can take this." Suddenly, a strange sound pierced the silence. It was a gray wolf, with bloody wounds on both its front and hind legs. The wolf growled menacingly, slowly advancing towards the man. Terrified, he stumbled back. The wolf bared its sharp fangs, its cold eyes fixated on the man. His body trembled uncontrollably, cold sweat dripping down his pale face. The gold continued to shine brilliantly, while the ferocious wolf, he continued to trudge forward, his wounded leg a heavy burden, blood dripping with each step towards a man. Deep within the man's heart, the image of his kind wife and two innocent children suddenly appeared, gripping the axe tightly in his hand. He thought to himself, "If I can bring this back, my life will change." With that thought, the man lunged forward, swinging his axe towards the ferocious wolf. The wolf raised its head, its sharp eyes fixed on the man. The man mustered all his strength and brought the axe down on the wolf. But the wolf was lightning fast, clamping its jaws onto his arm. The man gritted his teeth, enduring the excruciating pain, using all his might to thrust the axe into the wolf. A stream of crimson blood sprayed out, splattering across the ground. The wolf's howls gradually faded. It lay motionless in a pool of blood, lifeless. The man dropped his axe and collapsed to the ground, exhausted. He tremblingly clutched the golden stone. A happy smile spread across his weary face. "If I bring this back." His laughter echoed through the silent space. The man then coughed, ran back, and pounded on his front door, urgently calling for his wife. "Honey, open the door quickly." The woman, holding a baby and still half asleep, said to her husband, "No, you were." The husband frantically interrupted. "Just pack your things and the children's first." Confused, the wife scolded, "Are you crazy? Suddenly talking nonsense. What's going on?" "I don't have time to explain. We have to take the children and leave this village immediately." The wife stubbornly insisted. "You have to explain clearly to me before I decide to wake the children. Up and pack." The man hurriedly recounted the story of him getting lost in the deep forest. The wife anxiously asked, "What? Are you all right? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," the husband replied, "but you will be amazed by what I found on the mountain." Curious, the woman came closer and asked, "What is it?" The man opened the box and said, "A precious gem unlike anything I've ever seen." The man pointed at the gleaming gold bar in the chest, asserting confidently, "It's real gold." The woman asked skeptically, "Are you out of your mind?" Surprised, he looked back into the chest and muttered, "What in the world?" Inside the chest, a young boy suddenly appeared. The adorable, chubby-cheeked boy smiled brightly at the man. Panicked, the man yelled, "Hold on. What the hell is going on?" A slap, hard as thunder, landed squarely on the man's face. Blood splattered everywhere. The man collapsed onto the cold tile floor, stammering, "No, you've got it all wrong." The woman snapped, her face filled with rage. "Gold? Jewels? Never seen them. You lie." The man hastily raised his hands, pleading for forgiveness. "No, why brought back isn't." "Shut up." The mournful cries of a baby echoed throughout the gloomy forest. Carrying the child, the man walked through the forest, thinking to himself, it was clearly a solid gold bar. This baby, could it be possessed? Worried, the man glanced back. His wife's scowling face came into view. She was silently following him. His wife's face was a mask of annoyance and frustration. "Put it back where you found it." The man silently cradled the child and continued walking. His mind was filled with a whirlwind of thoughts. If that lump of gold was actually a small child, then what in the world was that monster? Fear crept into his heart. Could I have accidentally killed someone? The man stopped at the base of an ancient tree, his gaze fixed on some distant point. His wife silently followed, her steps slow and deliberate. When they reached the place where he had found the gold, the sight before him left him speechless. A crowd had gathered below, around a gaping hole in the ground, their voices a cacophony of noise. He tried to compose himself, telling himself, with a hole this big, it's no wonder it was discovered. Just stay calm, act like nothing happened. Suddenly, a voice rang out. I hear the high priest from the temple is here. It seems they're preparing to do something. Another voice chimed in. From what I've heard, what should be here seems to be gone. The man spoke up. Excuse me, may I ask, what's going on here? The red-haired man exclaimed in surprise. You came here without knowing anything? The red-haired man pointed towards the crowd below. See that man holding a staff that looks like a cross? That's a priest from the holy temple. The other man jolted, his face filled with alarm. His face darkened. He thought to himself, the holy temple? And a priest. Worried, he quickly asked the red-haired man, why is a priest here? The red-haired man replied, they say a dragon's treasure has fallen here. The man was horrified. The woman behind him was also shocked by the news. The man stammered, a dragon? The red-haired man affirmed confidently, yes, a dragon. He added, aren't dragons creatures of the gods? According to the records, it's said that it has been hidden, vanished for hundreds of years. The temple must be in chaos right now. The woman's face paled upon hearing those words. However, some say someone killed the guardian, the dragon, and stole all the treasure. The man clicked his tongue. That's incredibly audacious. He deserves to be punished. He should suffer 1,000-fold for stealing the dragon god's treasure. If caught, he'll surely be executed. The man hugged the baby tightly, fear etched on his face. The other man continued, the royal family will surely handle this themselves before the other clan gets involved. That thief won't survive. On the way home, both men remained silent. The man held the sleeping baby in his arms. The man asked his wife anxiously, what are we going to do? His wife didn't know how to respond. A child ran out from the house and asked his father. The man called out, Tyrio. The child continued asking, did you buy anything at the market? Did you and mother buy anything good? The husband and wife exchanged glances, searching for the right words to tell their son. The man gave his wife a slight nod, then smiled and said to the boy, it's nothing to worry about, Theo. The boy asked, then what is it? The man put his son down and said, this is a baby. They will be your little sibling. The boy asked, a little brother? The father replied, yes, even younger than Rose. The boy excitedly ran towards Estio and exclaimed, really? So I have another sibling. The man replied, that's right. The boy continued with delight. Wow, their eyes are so dark but so bright. What's their name? The man suddenly realized he hadn't named the baby yet. Stammering, write the name. Their name is... The boy continued to move closer to Estio, looking intently at the baby. The man thought for a moment and then named the baby Estio. The man decided to name the baby Estio. Back in the present. After hearing the story, Tyrios exclaimed in shock, what happened, father? The faces of both men darkened, neither speaking a word. The other man glanced at Estio's parents with contempt. What the hell was that bastard? He snarled. The man stammered an apology. He bowed his head, sincerely apologizing to Estio. The man approached Estio, taking the boy's hand in his voice filled with genuine remorse. I am truly sorry. He knelt before Estio. Please forgive me. I truly didn't know. The man hung his head, his body trembling. No, I still don't know exactly what you are. Estio remained silent, lost in thought. The man continued, I couldn't let my whole family be killed. But that doesn't mean I blame you or hate you. Whatever you are, you're still my son. I only wish to protect everyone. The old man said, his voice choked with emotion, tears welling up in his eyes. The man continued to pour out his heart, his voice thick with feeling. Because the more you reveal yourself to the outside world, the more danger those around you will face. Stio remained silent, standing there without saying a word. A moment later, he looked down at the man. Seeing this, the man quickly added, I too have resolved to protect you. I truly yearn to treat you as my own son, to give you a name, to witness you grow up. But you're not an ordinary person. You are only imitating other ordinary people. Human language, human emotions, even the rare development of humankind. Your growth slowed down when you lived in that attic. But no matter what, you still woke up and went outside as if nothing had happened. I was so afraid. The man suddenly dropped to his knees, his hands on the floor. Please forgive me. I was wrong. Confusion washed over Styo's face. An apology offered in exchange for safety for the lives of his entire family. He felt a knot of unease tighten in his chest. I wish I hadn't seen this. He clenched his fist, then suddenly punched the air. Everything seemed to shatter in that moment. Every head in the room snapped towards him. Dishes and utensils clattered on the dining table, scattered in disarray. The old man scrambled back, his eyes wide with terror. He trembled uncontrollably. Seeing him move, Tyrios recoiled in fear. You're going to kill us? I'm still your brother. Spare me. I'm sorry. It was all my fault. Please let me live. The woman beside him sobbed, her face buried in her hands. This is so simple. He stepped towards Tyrios. He hadn't expected them to be so weak. The young man turned silently and walked away without a word. The other two quietly followed behind. Estio stepped out of the house and into the downpour. Each step he took felt heavy under the relentless rain. The group silently trailed behind Estio, their figures fading into the white sheet of rain. Silence fell over the area, broken only by the steady drumming of the rain. The two followers remained silent, their eyes observing Estio intently. The rain intensified, each drop falling like a tear. It was as if nature itself was weeping in sympathy with the young man. Estio ventured deeper into the dense forest, his figure gradually disappearing. Despite the roaring thunder and lightning, he pressed on without hesitation. Finally, Estio stopped. Everyone halted before a small body of water. It was a deep pit, the place where Estio was born. Over time, the pit had transformed into a small pond. Estio gazed down at the surface of the pond, looking at his own reflection. His gaze then shifted to the loyal wolf standing beside him. What is your name? Estio wondered silently. Mabian, who was standing behind him, suddenly knelt down. Estio asked in surprise, You knew all along. Mabian replied, I've given this a lot of thought myself. But what if I told you that I was completely unaware of the extent of their actions? Would you believe me? When Estio didn't respond, he continued, Do you resent me? Estio blurted out, Why? Why would I resent you? Mabian started to say, There's no need, but Estio turned back and said, Your request was just. And I agreed. I accepted the responsibility you entrusted to me. Isn't that right? Mabian could only reply, I agree, and I will keep that promise. This answer surprised Estio. Mabian continued, Haiga is the clan that drinks dragon blood. Mabian now Haiga, the name bestowed upon me by the god who saved me, to ensure that this tragedy would never happen again. I want you to choose me as your guardian. Everyone fell silent. Estio silently observed him, lost in deep thought. The guardian of the dragons. Receiving the blessing of the sacred dragon bloodline comes at a price. The price is the absolute submission of one's soul. The one who becomes the guardian will be forever bound by commands, and the master's safety will become their utmost priority. It's an unbreakable blood pact. They return to the inn to rest after a long day. Today was certainly a long and tiring day. Please rest, Commander, Suki said softly, approaching the bedside. Estio looked at Suki with a pensive gaze, deep in thought. He must be very confused. It's good for him to sleep like this. Suddenly, he mumbled something softly. Then he suddenly hugged the cat tightly, murmuring Suki's name. It nuzzled its head against his forehead, softly comforting him. It's okay. No matter who you are, it doesn't change anything. The next morning, the first rays of dawn began to creep through the window. The gentle light shone on Estio, and he gradually opened his eyes. He sat up and looked around the room. He felt quite surprised at himself for sleeping so soundly. Parker entered the room, flashing a bright smile. Oh, I was about to wake you, but it looks like you're already up. Good morning, everyone, Parker greeted. Mabian appeared at the doorway. Time for breakfast. Let's go. Before Parker could finish his sentence, Mabian interrupted, making him angrily shout. I was going to say that. The scene shifted outdoors. The rain was pouring down. Inside the warm house, everyone was having breakfast when Parker spoke up. They said it would take about 2 days to reach Galaxy. But with this heavy rain, even the carriages can't move. We'll have to wait until the rain stops, Parker added. Uncle Keo took a piece of bread, chewing as he spoke. Mumble, mumble, mumble. Uncle Keo's words were unclear. Cactus spoke up and asked, when we return to headquarters, what will we do next? The young man remained silent, his face blank as if he hadn't thought of an answer. After a moment, he replied, "I guess we'll wait for the next mission to be assigned." Mobin interrupted him again. "Do you plan to continue working for the guild?" Stio replied cryptically. "You also carry a burden as the ultimate formula. How can you live an ordinary life?" Mabian confessed. "I once intended to relinquish all my current status and power, but Stio stopped me." She said that,